Dr. Vexathara had seen many strange things in her 300 years as a doctor. She had treated aliens with 3 hearts, beings made of living crystal, and creatures that breathed methane instead of oxygen. But she had never seen anything like this. The human lay unconscious on the medical bed in front of her. His name was Marcus Chen, a cargo ship pilot who had been found drifting in space near the Serpent's Veil Nebula. His small freighter had sent out an automatic distress signal before its systems failed completely. A passing merchant vessel had picked him up and brought him to Sanctuary 9, the largest medical station in this sector of the galaxy. "Run the genetic scan again," Vex said to her assistant, a young Kellian named Taurus. His blue skin flickered with concern. "Doctor, I have run it 5 times already. The results are the same." Vex's 4 eyes narrowed as she looked at the holographic display floating above Marcus's bed. The genetic readout was a mess of error messages and warning symbols. She had never seen the medical computer so confused. "This makes no sense," she muttered, her tail swishing in frustration. "He is clearly human. We have thousands of human genetic profiles in our database. Why can't the system match him?" Taurus stepped closer to the display, his long fingers manipulating the hologram. "The computer says his DNA structure is wrong. Look here." He pointed to a section of the genetic code. "Humans have 4 nucleotide bases in their DNA, like most carbon-based life forms. But his DNA has more. The computer keeps flagging sequences it cannot identify." Vex felt a chill run down her spine. In all her years of practice, she had never encountered a patient whose DNA was completely unrecognizable. "What about diseases? Could this be some kind of mutation or virus?" "I checked for that," Taurus said. "His DNA is not damaged or corrupted. These extra sequences appear to be natural, integrated, as if he was born with them." The medical AI chimed in with its synthetic voice. "Warning. Genetic profile does not match any known species in the Galactic Archive. Patient classification, unknown. Treatment protocols, unable to determine. Recommendation, quarantine and further analysis." Vex made a decision. "Put him in a private quarantine room, full biocontainment protocols, but keep him comfortable. I want every test we can run, genetic, cellular, molecular, everything." "Yes, doctor." Taurus began inputting commands into his datapad. As the medical staff carefully moved Marcus to the quarantine section, Vex studied his face. He looked completely normal for a human. Dark hair, average build, probably in his early 30s by human standards. There was nothing outwardly strange about him. Yet his DNA told a different story. She pulled up his medical history from the station's database. Marcus Chen, age 32, freelance cargo pilot, originally from Earth's Asian continent. No previous major illnesses, no genetic disorders in his family history. He had passed all standard health checks required for his pilot's license just 6 months ago. "How does someone's DNA change so dramatically in 6 months?" Vex whispered to herself. Over the next 2 days, Vex barely slept. She ran test after test, each one revealing more mysteries. Marcus's cells functioned normally in most ways, but there were odd anomalies. His body temperature fluctuated between normal human range and something much higher, temperatures that should have caused fever and organ damage, yet his cells seemed perfectly healthy. His brain scans showed unusual activity patterns even while unconscious. Most disturbing were the chromosomes. Human DNA was organized into 23 pairs of chromosomes. Marcus had the normal 23 pairs, but his genetic material seemed to fold and organize itself in ways that created additional structures. It was as if his DNA existed in more dimensions than it should. "This is impossible," Dr. Kieran, the station's senior geneticist, said when Vex showed him the results. He was a tall, thin Varnian with pale green skin. "DNA doesn't work like this. You can't just add extra base pairs and dimensional structures. The whole system would collapse." Yet his cells are functioning, Vex pointed out. Better than functioning, actually. I tested their regeneration rate. They heal damage 30% faster than normal human cells. Kieran shook his head. I need to report this to the Galactic Council. If there is some kind of new biological agent or genetic weapon out there— Wait, Vex interrupted. Let me investigate further before we alarm the Council. Give me 1 week. Kieran hesitated, then nodded. 1 week. But if you find any indication this could spread or pose a threat, we quarantine the entire station. That night, Vex sat alone in her office, staring at Marcus's genetic code displayed across multiple screens. She had spent hours comparing his DNA to every species database she could access. Nothing matched. The extra sequences in his genome looked almost designed, purposeful. But designed for what? On the 3rd day, something changed. Marcus began to wake up, briefly, sporadically. During these moments, the medical monitors went wild. His body temperature spiked to 43 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cause brain damage in normal humans. His heart rate tripled, and his eyes, when they opened, glowed with an amber light that shouldn't be possible in human biology. Vex rushed to his quarantine room during one of these episodes. Through the transparent barrier, she watched as Marcus thrashed on the bed, muttering words she couldn't understand. The language sounded ancient, primal, nothing like any human tongue in the database. Taurus, are you recording this? She asked urgently. Yes, Doctor, but the translation software cannot identify the language. Marcus's eyes snapped open, looking directly at Vex. For a moment, she saw something in those glowing amber eyes. Something vast and old and utterly inhuman. Then he collapsed back onto the bed, unconscious again, his eyes returning to normal brown. Vex's hands trembled as she reviewed the recordings. She had seen fear in her long career, had treated patients with terrifying diseases and injuries. But this was different. This wasn't just a medical mystery. This was something that challenged everything she understood about biology and evolution. She pulled up the station's records of Marcus's rescue. The merchant ship that had found him reported that his freighter had been caught in some kind of spatial anomaly near the Serpent's Veil Nebula. The Serpent's Veil? Vex had heard stories about that region of space. Even the ancient precursors, the mysterious race that had built megastructures throughout the galaxy millions of years ago, had avoided it. Computer, she said slowly, give me all information on the Serpent's Veil Nebula. Data flooded her screens. The nebula was classified as a hazard zone. Unexplained gravitational anomalies, reports of ships experiencing time dilation, strange energy readings that defied conventional physics. Several scientific expeditions had been sent to study it over the centuries, but most had turned back after experiencing equipment failures and crew disorientation. One report caught her attention. It was from a precursor archaeology team dated nearly 500 years ago. They had detected what they called dimensional fractures in the space around the nebula, places where the fabric of reality seemed thin, where other universes or timelines might be bleeding through. Vex sat back in her chair, her mind racing. What if Marcus had passed through one of these fractures? What if his DNA had been exposed to something from another dimension, another reality? That might explain the impossible structures in his genetic code. But that still didn't answer the biggest question. What was Marcus becoming? Dr. Vex Ithara watched Marcus through the quarantine glass for the 100th time that morning. He had been stable for the past 12 hours, but she knew it wouldn't last. The episodes were becoming more frequent and more intense. "Doctor, you have a visitor," Taurus announced from the doorway. A human man entered the medical bay. He was older, perhaps in his 60s, with white hair and kind eyes behind old-fashioned glasses. He carried a worn leather bag that looked like it had traveled across many worlds. "I'm Dr. Elias Tomias," the man said, extending his hand in the human greeting custom. I heard you have a rather unusual patient. Vex shook his hand carefully with her three-fingered grip. News travels fast. How did you hear about this? The case is supposed to be confidential. Tamaya smiled. I have friends in station administration, and when I heard there was a human whose DNA doesn't match the human database, well, I had to offer my help. I'm a paleogeneticist. I study the genetics of extinct Earth species. Extinct species? Vex was confused. But Marcus is alive. Very much alive. Exactly, Tomius said, his eyes bright with curiosity. May I see his genetic profile? Vex hesitated, then decided she needed all the help she could get. She pulled up Marcus's DNA sequence on her datapad and handed it to the human scientist. Tomius studied the display in silence for several minutes. His expression changed from curiosity to shock to something that looked like wonder. Oh my, he whispered. Oh my goodness, I need to run a comparison. Do you have access to Earth's paleontological genetic database? I can request it, Vex said. But why would we need fossil records? Because, Tomius said slowly, still staring at the genetic data. Some of these sequences look familiar. I've seen similar patterns before, but not in any living creature. Dr. Vex, have you ever heard of dragons? Vex's translator took a moment to find the right word. You mean the mythological creatures from human stories? The large reptiles that breathed fire? Myths, yes. That's what we always thought they were. Tomaya sat down heavily in a chair. But about 20 years ago, paleontologists on Earth found some very unusual fossils. Large reptilian creatures, but with bone structures that didn't match any known dinosaur. The bones had cavities that suggested impossible biology, chambers that could have produced combustible gases, skeletal structures too light for creatures that size. He pulled out his own datapad and showed Vex images of massive fossilized skeletons. We called them pseudo-dragons. We thought they were just unusual evolutionary dead ends. But we managed to extract some genetic material from the fossils, degraded, incomplete, but enough to map some sequences. Vex felt her pulse quicken. And you think Marcus's DNA might match these fossils? Let's find out. For the next 6 hours, Vex and Tomius worked together, comparing Marcus's genetic code to every sample in Earth's paleontological database. Most showed no correlation. Then, Tomius loaded the pseudo-dragon samples. The computer chimed. Genetic match found. Correlation 43%. Vex stared at the screen in disbelief. 43%? That's higher than the match between humans and chimpanzees. Tomius was already pulling up more data, his fingers flying across his datapad. Look at this. The extra base pairs in Marcus's DNA. They match the unusual sequences we found in the dragon fossils. The ones we couldn't explain. We thought they were contamination or degradation errors. But how is this possible? Vex demanded. Dragons are mythology, fantasy. They never existed. Didn't they? Tomius pulled up historical records. Every human culture has dragon legends. Asian cultures, European cultures, American indigenous peoples, African tribes, all of them describe similar creatures. Large, intelligent reptiles with unusual abilities. What if they weren't just stories? Vex began pacing, her mind working through the implications. The fossils you found, how old are they? The most recent ones date to about 65,000 years ago, right around the time modern humans were spreading across Earth. Then they disappear from the fossil record completely. 65,000 years, Vex repeated. And Marcus is alive today with their DNA. How? Tomius was quiet for a moment, thinking. There are legends, he said slowly, in many human cultures about people with dragon blood. Heroes who were stronger, faster, could survive extreme conditions. We always thought they were just stories told around campfires. But what if there was truth to them? What if a small population of humans and dragons interbred before the dragons went extinct? Genetic hybridization between species is extremely rare, Vex said. The DNA has to be compatible at a fundamental level. I know, Tomias agreed, which makes me wonder if dragons and humans were more closely related than we thought, or if dragons had some ability to make their genetics compatible with other species. A warning alarm interrupted their discussion. In the quarantine room, Marcus was having another episode. His body temperature was rising rapidly, his muscles spasming. But this time, something different was happening. His skin was taking on a faint shimmering quality, like scales catching light. Vex rushed to the control panel. His genetic markers are going wild. It's like his DNA is rewriting itself in real time. Tomias watched through the glass, his expression a mix of fear and fascination. The dragon DNA is activating. Whatever happened to him in the Serpent's Veil, it triggered dormant genes that have been sleeping in his bloodline for thousands of years. Can we stop it? Vex asked. I don't know if we should stop it, Tomias said quietly. Look at his cellular regeneration rates. His body is adapting, changing. If we interfere, we might kill him. They watched as Marcus's episode slowly subsided. The shimmer faded from his skin, but subtle changes remained. His fingernails looked thicker, harder. The veins in his arms showed a faint golden color instead of blue. We need more information about the Serpent's Veil, Vex said decisively. Whatever is happening to Marcus started there. She contacted the station's astrophysics department and requested all research data on the nebula. What she learned made the puzzle pieces start to fit together. The Serpent's Veil sat on top of a massive temporal spatial rift. The rift created areas where different dimensions or timelines brushed against each other. Scientific teams had detected readings from the rift that suggested other versions of reality existed on the other side, places where physics worked differently, where evolution had taken different paths. What if, Vex said slowly, dragons didn't go extinct? What if they evolved in a parallel dimension where conditions were right for their biology? And 65,000 years ago, Earth's timeline briefly touched that dimension? Tomias picked up her thought. Humans and dragons could have met during that overlap. Some hybridization occurred, creating bloodlines that carried dormant dragon genes. Then the dimensions separated, and dragons disappeared from Earth's reality. Most hybrid bloodlines would have died out, Vex continued. The genetics would be too unstable, but a few survived, passing down dormant dragon DNA through thousands of generations. And Marcus is a descendant of one of those bloodlines. When his ship passed through the rift at the Serpent's Veil, Tomias finished, it exposed him to that other dimension again. The dimensional energy awakened his dragon genes. They looked at each other in the dim light of the medical bay. What is he becoming? Vex asked softly. Tomias shook his head. Something new. Something that hasn't existed in 65,000 years. A true human-dragon hybrid. In the quarantine room, Marcus's eyes opened briefly. They glowed amber in the darkness, and for just a moment, Vex could have sworn she saw ancient intelligence looking back at her. Then he slept again, while his DNA continued its slow, mysterious transformation. Marcus Chen opened his eyes and immediately knew something was wrong with his body. Everything felt different, sharper, stronger, but also strange, like wearing clothes that didn't quite fit. "Welcome back, Mr. Chen," a gentle voice said. "Please don't try to sit up too quickly." Marcus turned his head and saw an alien doctor standing beside his bed. She had 4 eyes, purple skin, and a long tail that swayed behind her. Next to her stood an elderly human man with white hair and glasses. "Where am I?" Marcus asked. His voice sounded rough, unused. "You're on Sanctuary 9, a medical station," the alien doctor said. "I'm Dr. Vexathera, and this is Dr. Tomias. You've been unconscious for 5 days. Do you remember what happened? Marcus closed his eyes, trying to recall. I was hauling cargo, heading through the Serpent's Veil Nebula to save time. There was something in the nebula, lights, colors that shouldn't exist. My ship's instruments went crazy. Then everything went white and he trailed off. I don't remember anything after that. You sent a distress signal, Vex explained. A merchant ship found you drifting and brought you here. Marcus, we need to tell you something important. Your body is going through some unusual changes. Changes? Marcus looked down at his hands. They looked normal enough, but when he focused, he noticed his fingernails seemed thicker, almost like claws. The veins in his arms had a strange golden tint. What's happening to me? Dr. Tamaya stepped forward. Marcus, this is going to sound incredible, but we've analyzed your DNA. You have genetic sequences that match fossils of creatures we found on Earth. Creatures from ancient legends, dragons. Marcus stared at him. Dragons? Like fire-breathing, flying dragons? That's impossible. Those are just stories. We thought so too, Tamaya said. But the genetic evidence is clear. Somehow you carry active dragon DNA mixed with your human genes. We believe it's been dormant in your bloodline for thousands of years, and passing through the rift in the Serpent's Veil awakened it. Marcus felt a surge of panic. Am I turning into a dragon? We don't know exactly what's happening, Vex said honestly. Your body seems to be trying to integrate the dragon DNA, but it's struggling. The two genetic systems are fighting each other. That's what's been causing your episodes, the fever, the physical changes, the unconsciousness. Can you stop it? Marcus asked. Can you make me normal again? Vex and Thomias exchanged glances. We could try to suppress the dragon DNA, Vex said carefully. Use genetic therapy to shut down those sequences. But Marcus, we're not sure what that would do to you. The dragon genes are already integrated into your cells. Removing them might cause more harm than good. Marcus lay back on the bed, his mind spinning. Dragons. It sounded insane. But he couldn't deny what was happening to his body. He had felt it during those fever dreams, something ancient and powerful stirring inside him, something that wanted to emerge. There's more you should know, Tomias said gently. We've been researching dragon fossils and human legends. In many cultures, there are stories of people with dragon blood, warriors and heroes who had special abilities. We think these might have been real people, descendants of humans who interbred with dragons long ago. You're saying I'm descended from, what, dragon-human hybrids? It's a theory, Tomias admitted. About 65,000 years ago, we believe Earth's reality briefly overlapped with another dimension where dragons evolved. During that time, some humans and dragons produced offspring. Most of these hybrid bloodlines died out. The genetics were too unstable, but a few survived, passing down dormant dragon traits through countless generations. Vex pulled up a holographic display showing Marcus's genetic map. Look at this. Your dragon DNA isn't behaving like a disease or mutation. It's cooperative. It's trying to work with your human DNA, not replace it. Dragons, we believe, weren't just intelligent. They were biological architects. They could adapt their genetics to be compatible with other species. Why would they do that? Marcus asked. Survival, Tomias said. Imagine you're a species that senses extinction coming. Maybe your environment is changing, or your dimension is becoming unstable. What if you could preserve your genetic legacy by sharing it with another species? By creating hybrids that could survive in conditions you couldn't? Marcus felt a chill. So dragons used humans as, what, backup bodies? Not exactly, Vex said. It seems more like a partnership. The dragon DNA doesn't dominate. It enhances. Look at your cellular regeneration. Your cells heal 30% faster than normal human cells. Your body can tolerate extreme temperatures that would kill most humans. You're not becoming a dragon. You're becoming something new. Over the next 2 days, as Marcus remained under observation, he began to notice more changes. His senses were sharper. He could hear conversations happening 3 rooms away. He could see in near darkness. Once, when a medical technician dropped a tray of instruments, Marcus's hand shot out with impossible speed and caught everything before it hit the floor. But the most unsettling change was the dreams. Every time Marcus slept, he experienced vivid visions, memories that weren't his own. He saw a world of mountains and caves, of creatures with scales and wings soaring through purple skies. He heard a language of growls and harmonics that somehow made perfect sense to him. And he felt emotions: fierce pride, deep wisdom, a profound sadness at the end of an age. "They're not just dreams," he told Vex and Thomius during one of their daily examinations. "I think I'm seeing dragon memories. Somehow their genetic memory is stored in the DNA and it's transferring to me." Thomius was fascinated. "That would explain the language you were speaking during your episodes, and it supports our theory about dimensional overlap. These memories might be from the original dragons who encountered humans 65,000 years ago." But not everyone was happy about Marcus's condition. On the 6th day, representatives from the Galactic Council arrived at the station. They were led by Council Member Zrath, an imposing Krillian with metallic skin and cold, calculating eyes. "Dr. Vexithara," Zrath said formally, "the Council has reviewed your reports about this human and his unprecedented genetic anomaly. We have concerns about safety and contamination." "Marcus poses no threat," Vex said firmly. "His condition is not contagious. It's a genetic awakening, not a disease." "Nevertheless," Zrath continued, "we cannot allow an uncontrolled genetic transformation aboard a civilian station. The Council has authorized 3 options: suppress the transformation using aggressive genetic therapy, place the subject in permanent suspended animation for further study, or terminate him as a potential biological hazard." Marcus felt his blood run cold. "You want to kill me because I'm different?" "We want to protect the billions of beings who live in this galaxy," Zrath said without emotion. "Your transformation is unpredictable. We don't know what you might become." "I'm still human," Marcus said, his voice rising. "I'm still me. I haven't hurt anyone." Vex stepped between Marcus and the council member. "You will not touch my patient. I have 7 days to stabilize his condition as agreed with station protocols. I still have time." Zrath's metallic face showed no expression. "You have 3 days, Doctor. Then we will take custody of the specimen and make our decision." After the council members left, Marcus sat in silence, feeling despair wash over him. 3 days to either suppress what he was becoming or face death or eternal sleep. "There might be another option," Thomius said quietly. "Marcus, what if the problem isn't the dragon DNA? What if the problem is you fighting it?" Marcus looked up. "What do you mean?" "Your body is in conflict because part of you, your conscious mind, is resisting the transformation," Thomius explained. "You're afraid of what you're becoming, so you're fighting it at a subconscious level. That's what's causing the instability." Vex nodded slowly, understanding. "The dragon DNA is trying to integrate smoothly, but your human survival instincts are treating it as a threat. It's like your mind and body are at war with each other." "So what do I do?" Marcus asked. "You stop fighting," Vex said simply. "You trust the process. Let the transformation happen." Marcus looked at his hands, at the subtle changes already taking place. Trust a transformation that might make him into something completely different? Or resist and face death? It was the hardest choice of his life. "If I do this," he said slowly, "if I let it happen, will I still be me?" Thomius smiled sadly. "I think the real question is, who were you always meant to be?" Marcus stood in front of the mirror in his quarantine room, staring at his reflection. His eyes flickered between brown and amber. His skin had taken on a faint shimmer, like light reflecting off water. He had 48 hours before the Galactic Council would come for him. "I'm scared," he admitted to Dr. Vex and Dr. Tomias, who sat with him in the room. The quarantine protocols had been relaxed since he showed no signs of being contagious. "Fear is natural," Vex said kindly. "Change is always frightening, especially when you don't know what you'll become." "But here's what we do know," Tomias added, pulling up data on his datapad. "Every time you've had an episode, your body has become stronger, more resilient. Your cellular structure is improving, not degrading. The dragon DNA isn't destroying you, it's enhancing you." Marcus sat down on the edge of his bed. "In my dreams, I see them, the dragons. They weren't monsters. They were noble, wise. They cared about preserving life, about protecting the balance of nature. But they also knew they were dying out." "Tell us more about these dreams," Vex said, leaning forward with interest. "It's like watching memories that aren't mine," Marcus explained. "I see a dragon named Kethrax. He was old, maybe the last of his kind in his dimension. He knew their world was fading, collapsing into entropy. So he and others like him made a choice. They found a way to cross into Earth's dimension when the two realities briefly touched." 65,000 years ago, Tomias said. "That matches our timeline." Marcus nodded. "They didn't come to conquer or invade. They came to survive, but not in the way you'd think. They knew they couldn't live permanently in Earth's dimension. The physics were too different. The environment wasn't right for their biology, but they found humans, primitive, but full of potential. And they made an offering." "An offering?" Vex asked. "Their genetic legacy," Marcus said. "Dragons could manipulate their own DNA, share it with compatible species. A few humans accepted the gift, became the first hybrids. It gave them abilities, strength, longevity, resistance to disease and injury. In exchange, the dragon's genetic memory would live on, preserved in human bloodlines." Tomias was writing notes rapidly. "So it was symbiotic. The humans gained enhanced abilities and the dragons achieved a form of immortality through genetic inheritance." "Most of the hybrid children didn't survive," Marcus continued, the memories flowing through him. "The two genetic systems were too different. But a few did, and they passed the dragon traits down through generations. Over time, the traits became dormant, recessive. My ancestors probably never knew what they carried inside them." "Until you flew through the serpent's veil," Vex said. "The rift connected me back to that other dimension," Marcus said. "It was like coming home to a place I'd never been. The dimensional energy recognized the dragon DNA in me and awakened it." He looked at both doctors. "I've been fighting this because I thought I was losing myself. But that's not what's happening, is it? The dragon DNA isn't replacing who I am. It's revealing who I was always meant to be." Vex smiled. "I think you understand now. Your human stubbornness, your will to remain yourself, that's actually what's been making the transformation so difficult. The dragon DNA is trying to integrate peacefully, but you've been treating it as an invasion." "So if I stop fighting," Marcus said, "we'll monitor you every step of the way," Tomias assured him. "We've prepared medical support systems. If anything goes wrong, we can intervene." Marcus took a deep breath. "Okay, I'm ready. What do I need to do?" "Simply accept it," Vex said. "Meditate, relax, and let your body complete what it started. We'll be right here." Marcus lay back on the medical bed. Sensors attached to his body monitored every vital sign. Vex and Tomias watched from the control station, surrounded by screens showing his genetic activity in real time. "Beginning transformation acceptance protocol," Vex said into the medical log. "Subject is calm and willing." Marcus closed his eyes and focused inward. For the first time since the serpent's veil, he didn't resist the strange sensations in his body. He felt the dragon DNA like a warm current flowing through his veins, and instead of pushing it away, he welcomed it. The change began immediately. His body temperature rose, but this time Marcus didn't panic. He breathed steadily as his cells began to reorganize themselves at a fundamental level. On the monitors, Vex and Thomius watched in amazement as his genetic code rewrote itself in real time, the human and dragon sequences weaving together in an intricate dance. "His vital signs are stable," Taurus reported from another console. "Heart rate elevated but steady. Brain activity is intense but organized." Marcus felt his bones shifting, becoming denser but somehow lighter. His muscles restructured, gaining new fiber types that could generate more power with less effort. His nervous system expanded, creating new pathways for processing sensory information, and his cells, every cell in his body, began to express new proteins, new enzymes, new capabilities. The transformation took 3 days. During that time, Marcus drifted in and out of consciousness, but it wasn't the violent, painful episodes from before. This was peaceful, natural, like a caterpillar transforming in its cocoon. Vex and Thomius took shifts monitoring him, watching as the impossible became real before their eyes. On the morning of the 3rd day, Marcus opened his eyes. They glowed with a steady amber light, not the flickering, unstable glow from before, but something constant and controlled. "How do you feel?" Vex asked gently. Marcus sat up slowly. He felt incredible. Strong, clear-headed, more alive than he'd ever felt. He looked at his hands and watched as, with just a thought, his fingernails extended into sharp claws, then retracted back to normal. "I feel whole," he said, "like I was incomplete before and didn't even know it." Thomius ran a scanner over him. "Your genetic structure has stabilized. The human and dragon DNA are now fully integrated. You're no longer in conflict with yourself." Marcus stood and walked to the mirror. His appearance hadn't changed dramatically. He still looked human, but there were subtle differences. His eyes held that amber glow. His skin had a faint iridescent quality when light hit it at certain angles. He seemed to radiate a quiet strength. "What can you do?" Vex asked curiously. Marcus focused on his senses. He could hear the hum of the station's life support systems 3 decks away. He could see the individual threads in Vex's medical coat. He could sense the electromagnetic fields generated by all the electronic equipment around him. "Temperature," he said, remembering his fever episodes. He held out his hand and concentrated. The air above his palm began to shimmer with heat, not fire, but controlled thermal energy. Then he reversed it, and frost crystals formed on his fingers. "I can regulate my body temperature at will, survive extreme heat or cold." Thomius was astounded. "What about physical abilities?" Marcus walked over to a heavy medical cabinet, one that normally required 2 people to move. He lifted it with one hand effortlessly. "Enhanced strength. Enhanced speed, too, I think. My reflexes are much faster than before." "And your mind?" Vex asked. "Clearer. I can process information faster, see patterns more easily." Marcus smiled. "The dragon genetic memory is still there, but it's not overwhelming me anymore. It's like having access to a library of knowledge. I can choose what to examine and when." A chime sounded. Taurus entered the room looking worried. "Doctors, the Galactic Council representatives are here. They're demanding to see the patient." Marcus's amber eyes met Vex's 4-eyed gaze. "I guess it's time to show them I'm not a threat." Council member Zrath entered with 4 armed guards. He stopped short when he saw Marcus standing calmly in the center of the room. "The transformation is complete," Vex announced, "and as you can see, Marcus is in full control of himself. He poses no danger." Zrath studied Marcus carefully. "You look human still, but the readings show significant genetic alterations." "I am human," Marcus said calmly. "I'm just more than I was before." Council member Zrath circled Marcus slowly, his metallic eyes scanning every detail. The armed guards kept their weapons ready, though not pointed directly at anyone. "Demonstrate your abilities," Zrath commanded. "We need to assess whether you're a threat to galactic security." Marcus glanced at Dr. Vex, who nodded encouragingly. He held out his hand and concentrated. The air around his fingers shimmered as the temperature rose, creating visible heat waves. Then he closed his fist, and the heat vanished instantly, replaced by a thin layer of frost. "Temperature control," Marcus explained. "I can survive in environments that would kill normal humans, extreme heat, extreme cold, even hard radiation. My cells can adapt and protect themselves." "Show us more," Zrath said, his tone neutral. Marcus walked over to the reinforced quarantine glass that separated part of the medical bay. It was designed to withstand massive impacts. He placed his hand against it and focused his senses. "I can detect electromagnetic fields, see in near-complete darkness, hear sounds far beyond human range. And—" He tapped the glass gently, and a small crack appeared. "I'm significantly stronger than before." One of the guards raised his weapon nervously, but Zrath held up a hand to stop him. "Physical enhancements, sensory improvements," Zrath said. "These could be advantages or weapons, depending on intent. What else?" Marcus hesitated, then decided to be completely honest. "I have access to genetic memory from the dragons. Ancient knowledge about biology, physics, dimensional theory, things that Earth science is only beginning to understand. And I think," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "I think I can help other people." "Help them how?" Dr. Tomias asked, intrigued. "The dragon DNA in me isn't static," Marcus explained. "It's adaptive, cooperative. I can sense genetic patterns in other beings now. I think I could potentially share some of these healing properties, help treat genetic diseases or injuries that normal medicine can't fix." Vex's eyes widened. "You're saying you could use your modified DNA to create treatments?" "Not by myself," Marcus said quickly. "But working with doctors and scientists, yes. The dragons were biological architects. That knowledge is part of me now." Zrath was silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. "The Council sent me here prepared to authorize your termination or permanent containment. But what you're describing could be valuable to the entire galaxy." He turned to his guards. "Lower your weapons." The tension in the room eased slightly. "However," Zrath continued, "you must understand that you are unique, unprecedented. We need to study what happened to you, understand it fully. Will you cooperate with galactic medical authorities?" Marcus nodded. "Yes, on one condition. I want Dr. Vex and Dr. Thomius to remain my primary physicians. They saved my life and helped me accept what I was becoming. I trust them." "Acceptable," Zrath agreed. "Dr. Vexithara, you will compile a complete report on this case, and Mr. Chen, you will remain on Sanctuary 9 for the next month while we run comprehensive tests." After Zrath and his guards left, Marcus let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. "I can't believe that worked." "You impressed him," Vex said with a smile. "You showed control and offered value instead of presenting yourself as a threat. Very wise." Over the following weeks, Marcus worked closely with a team of galactic scientists. They studied his DNA, ran countless tests, and documented every aspect of his transformation. Marcus was patient with it all, understanding that his cooperation would help other beings in the future. The breakthrough came when Dr. Tomias brought a special patient to meet Marcus, a young Kellian girl named Sarah, who suffered from a genetic disorder that caused her cells to degenerate. Her species' medicine could slow the condition but not cure it. "Your dragon DNA has remarkable regenerative properties," Tomias explained. "We think we might be able to create a treatment based on the cellular repair mechanisms you've developed." Marcus sat with Sarah and her parents, his enhanced senses examining her genetic structure. He could actually see the flawed sequences in her DNA, the places where her cells were breaking down. "I can help," he said softly. "It won't be a cure, but I think we can stabilize her condition and give her a normal lifespan." Working with Vex and Tomias, Marcus provided tissue samples. The dragon DNA's cooperative nature allowed the scientists to extract specific repair proteins and genetic sequences without rejection. Within 2 weeks, they had developed a treatment that began reversing Sarah's cellular damage. News spread quickly through the medical community. Marcus's unique biology became the foundation for breakthrough treatments for genetic diseases across multiple species. The cooperative nature of dragon DNA, its ability to integrate and enhance rather than compete, opened entirely new fields of medicine. Dr. Vex published her findings in the Galactic Medical Journal. Her paper, The Dragon Genome: Biological Cooperation Across Species, revolutionized xenobiology. Scientists across the galaxy began to reconsider Earth's ancient legends, wondering what other mythological creatures might have been real, might have left genetic traces in unexpected places. 3 months after his transformation, Marcus stood in the observation deck of Sanctuary 9, looking out at the stars. Dr. Vex found him there, her tail swishing thoughtfully. "Thinking about what comes next?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "The council cleared me to leave the station. I could go back to hauling cargo, return to my old life." "But?" Vex prompted. "But I'm not the same person who flew into the Serpent's Veil," Marcus said. "I have these abilities now, this knowledge. It feels wrong to waste them on just myself." Vex smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. The Galactic Science Council has approved a research expedition. We want to explore other dimensional rifts, search for evidence of other extinct species that might have left genetic legacies. We need someone who can survive extreme conditions, who understands dimensional physics from the dragon memories." "You want me to join the expedition?" Marcus asked. "I want you to lead it," Vex said. "You're uniquely qualified, and Dr. Tomias has already agreed to join as the team's paleogeneticist." Marcus felt a surge of excitement. "When do we start?" 2 weeks. We've identified 3 promising rifts similar to the Serpent's Veil. Who knows what we might discover?" The expedition became famous across the galaxy. Marcus and his team explored dimensional boundaries, finding evidence of other species that had crossed between realities. They discovered genetic traces of creatures from Earth legends, massive sea beings that matched descriptions of krakens, aerial creatures similar to phoenixes, even intelligent plant-based life forms that ancient humans had called tree spirits. Each discovery supported the theory that Earth had been a crossroads of dimensions during certain periods of its history. Many mythological creatures had been real, and some had left their genetic mark on humanity. Back on Earth, human geneticists began screening populations for other dormant traits. They found people with inactive genes that matched phoenix patterns, potential resistance to radiation, and accelerated healing. Others carried traces of kraken DNA, adaptations for deep pressure and aquatic breathing. The genes were dormant, sleeping, but they were there. Marcus became an ambassador between species, proof that change and adaptation weren't threats, but opportunities. His existence challenged the galaxy's understanding of evolution, genetics, and the nature of reality itself. 2 years after his transformation, Marcus returned to the Serpent's Veil Nebula. His new ship, the Dragon's Memory, was equipped with the finest scientific equipment the galaxy could provide. Dr. Vex and Dr. Tomias stood with him on the bridge as they approached the dimensional rift. "Are you nervous?" Tomias asked. "Coming back to where it all began?" Marcus watched the swirling colors of the nebula, his amber eyes reflecting the strange light. "Not nervous. Grateful. That rift gave me a gift. Not just the dragon DNA, but a purpose, a connection to something ancient and wise. The galaxy is better for it, Vex said. Your treatments have helped thousands. Your research has opened new frontiers of science, and you've shown us that humanity carries more potential than we ever imagined. Marcus smiled. Humanity and dragons, partners across time and dimension. The dragons knew they were ending, but they made sure their legacy would continue. They trusted humanity to carry it forward. And you've honored that trust, Tomias said. As the dragon's memory passed through the rift, Marcus felt the familiar tingle of dimensional energy. But this time, there was no fear, no confusion, only curiosity and wonder at what other secrets the universe might hold. Across the galaxy, in medical centers and research stations, people of dozens of species benefited from the dragon legacy that Marcus carried. Children like Sarah lived full, healthy lives thanks to treatments that wouldn't exist without his transformation. And on Earth, in quiet moments, some humans felt stirrings in their blood, ancient memories of when reality was fluid, when dragons walked among them as teachers and friends, when humanity first learned that they were meant to reach for the stars. Marcus Chen had been an ordinary cargo pilot, flying through space to make a living. Now he was something more, a bridge between species, a keeper of ancient wisdom, a symbol of what humanity could become when they embraced change instead of fearing it. His DNA matched no species because he was something new, something unique. He was the future remembering the past, proof that the best of both could create something extraordinary. And somewhere in the dimensional rifts between realities, perhaps the ancient dragons looked on with satisfaction, knowing their final gift to the universe had been accepted, cherished, and shared with all who needed it. The story of the man with dragon blood was just beginning.